Okay, these are all layers of the teeth. Then comes the another layer. There's one more layer in it. See this third layer over here. That is called as what? That is called as pulp cavity. Pulp cavity. And then finally you have the innermost part that is called as gum. Then in the innermost part you will be having gum. It's GUM. So teeth is basically divided into 4 layers. First one is enamel, then you have dentine, then you have pulp cavity, then you have gum. Okay, guys. So in the tooth decay, the infection reaches up to the this innermost portion that is gum. All right, guys. Okay. How do we prevent this? We know about this. We discussed that one as well. Esophagus. Okay. Name a motion which leads to which helps in the movement of food in the esophagus. What do we call that type of motion which helps in the movement of food in the esophagus? Yes, guys.
Peristalsis.
Peristalsis. Yeah. Okay. That is called as peristalsis motion. So food moves in the stomach via this motion. Sundus, please explain how food moves in this type of motion.
What, sir? I can't hear you. Can you say it again?
Yeah, I was saying, what is this peristalsis motion? Which we talked about earlier, peristalsis motion. So see over this see in the diagram here, this is a food particle over here. Okay, and this food particle is moving in the food pipe via alternate contractions and relaxations of the muscles. Isn't it, Vaiga? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So peristalsis motion is the alternate contraction.
Sir, just 1 minute. I have to leave and join. Just wait.
Okay,
Because
no
this
issue.
device is very I can't hear you. That's why I will just leave and join.
Okay, no issue. I'm just writing the definition. All right.
Sir.
Okay. So this is peristalsis motion. That's Vaiga. Okay. Do tell me once some of those joins.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Okay. Now, what if you see just adjacent to this foot pipe, there's a wind pipe also. A wind pipe that carries air from nostril to our lungs, guys. Okay. So many times what happens, we experience hiccups now. HICCUPS. HICCUPS. Why?
Yes, sir.
Hiccups.
Yes,
When
sir.
hiccup, any idea how hiccups happen?
Like when our food is stuck on the windpipe, like we get hiccups.
Exactly. See, this is the food. This is the food pipe coming from our mouth. Okay, and just adjacent to it, you are having wind pipe coming from your nostril as well. Okay, and in between the two, there's a cap. See, this one is wind pipe, and this one is your food pipe. In between the windpipe and food pipe, there is a cap called as epiglottis. EPIGLOTTIS. So it acts like a cap. All right. So whenever we are, yes, Sundus is joining. Yes, Sundus, your mic is working properly now. Yes, Sundus. Yes, Sundus is there now. Let me just check.
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay. So Sundus, we were talking about hiccups. What happens in hiccup? So basically what happens in the hiccup, the food which you are eating that is coming down from the food pipe, it will accidentally reach into the windpipe if this gap between the two remains open. Yes, Vaiga, you got this one?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So there's a Sundar,
Sir,
you
sir, sir.
see,
Can you
yeah,
explain again?
yeah, sure, I will explain again. Look, many times we experience hiccups. Okay, so you see, the windpipe that is coming that is running down from the nostril till our lungs, that is located adjacent to the food pipe. Okay, see, this is your windpipe, this is your food pipe, and in between the two there's a cap. There's a cap like a structure called as epiglottis. All right, it is acting as a cap between the two. So accidentally what happens sometimes, while you are eating the food, this cap remains open and the food particles will come into the windpipe. So you experience hiccups. So hiccups is basically what, how it helps. It helps to transfer this food particle from the windpipe back into the food pipe. All right, guys, that is called as hiccup. Hope that's clear. Okay.
Okay, sir.
All right then. Now then we talked about the stomach as well. Now stomach secretes three different types of juices. There are three secretions in the stomach, right? Okay. So the stomach, it is said, look, it is all, it has been in the human body ever since human were created, ever since humans came on earth. But it was in the year 1822, there was a American doctor whose name was William Beaumont. He accidentally discovered the stomach in the man. Okay, so while he was operating, earlier medical science was not so advanced, na guys. So humans did not know which part of the human body has got what functions, like which internal part of the body has got what functions. They had no idea about the function of lungs, about the stomach, about kidneys, how these organs functions. Okay, so in 1822 what happens, accidentally William Beaumont, he was an American doctor, he discovered stomach in the man. So he discovered that it is a very thick wall bag like structure which is present on the left side on the abdomen. So if you see on our abdomen, it is located on the left side. Okay, and its shape is flat. It is flattened, right, guys? It's a flattened U-shaped structure, and also we discovered that it is the widest part of the alimentary canal, right? Okay, so the food that is being partially digested in our stomach directly, sorry, the food that is being partially digested in our mouth, it comes to the stomach, and there mucus is released, hydrochloric acid, and some digestive juices are released. So mucus, what it does, in order to understand and first understand about hydrochloric acid. So hydrochloric acid kills all the bacteria, and mucus protects the inner lining of the stomach from the harmful impact of this HCl acid. Then there were some digestive juices as well. You guys explain me what were the functions of the digestive juices?
They help in breakdown of the proteins into simpler substances.
Good. And anything else? They help down in the breakdown of proteins in the stomach. Good. So you see, one more thing I told you about this stomach here, that in this stomach, food is stored for 2.5 hours to 3 hours, and there's a regular churning of food going on here, just like how a mixer grinder operates. Similarly, food is churned here, and it is converted into a paste like a structure which I called as chyme here. All right, guys. Okay, so in today's class we are going to discuss about another part of alimentary canal, that is small intestine, right? So small intestine, if you see in this figure, which one is the small intestine? The outer coil like structure or the inner one?
No one.
Inner one. Okay. So this small intestine, you will see it is a very long tube like structure which is highly coiled. Okay. It's about the length of 7.5 meters. So first thing is that it is a highly coiled like tube. What is the length, guys?
1.5 meter.
7.5 meters. That is its length. Okay. Now the small intestine, it is a very narrow tube. Okay, and it is receiving secretions from liver and pancreas. One question you guys might should have been posed here, that so why is it called small intestine? Because its length is greater than larger intestine. If you will, when we will study about the small intestine, you will see that the length of small intestine is larger than the large intestine. But why is it called small intestine then?
I think
Because
the
of the
breath is longer.
exactly. No, not the breadth. The breadth of which one? The small intestine or the large
Large
intestine?
and the large one.
Yeah, the large intestine has got more width. That's why it is called as large intestine, and this one is called as small intestine. So it is called as small intestine because of less width. Okay, and this small intestine, see, it is receiving secretions from the liver. Liver, remember I told you guys that it is it is what?
Gland. It's a
Gland.
gland.
It's a gland, and there's one more gland called as pancreas. So the pancreas and the liver secretes their secretions into the small intestine. All right. So one more point, it receives secretions from liver and small intestine. Okay, guys. Yeah, sorry about that. All right. Now, what happens in this small intestine? The food that is coming from the stomach, the complete digestion of food takes place inside the small intestine. Okay, and the food components are also absorbed here. Remember the steps of digestion or steps of nutrition. What are they? Ingestion, digestion, absorption, assimilation, and then excretion. Okay, so the step absorption is done here. So the food is completely digested here, and absorption of components takes place. Of components takes place. Right. Now, the largest part of the body, that is liver, it is if you see in the figure, it's a reddish brown color like gland. See the color of it, looks like reddish brown in color. It is situated in the upper part of the abdomen on the right side. So if you
So
place
this is
hand
the
in,
biggest part in the body.
no, not in the body, it is the biggest in it is the biggest gland. It is the biggest gland. All right. So glands are three, and this is the biggest gland in our body. Okay. On our abdomen, on the upper part, it is located on the right side. Okay. So this liver we will discuss as especially we will talk about liver. So for a small intestine, just know that it receives secretions from liver as well. Okay. So the liver, which is secreting its secretion, that is basically called as bile juice. Okay. When you will study about liver, you will see that it secretes a digestive juice called bile juice. Okay. So let's talk about the function of the bile juice here as well. Okay, guys. Okay. So the bile juice, which is stored by the, secreted by the liver, what it does, it breaks down the fat molecules present in the food into tiny droplets. Right, guys? So we say that the liver secretes the bile juice into the small intestine. So whatever left fat is present in the food, now that fat will be completely transferred into tiny droplets. It converts the fat molecules into tiny droplets. Okay, so that it is further broken down into simpler compounds. That becomes very easy here. Okay, so one more thing we get to know here: the fat present in the food is also completely digested in this part of the alimentary canal. All right, guys. Okay. Then what about the pancreas? Pancreas also secretes something into the small intestine. Do you guys know about this one? Yeah.
No, sir.
Okay. Look, if I have got, look, let me see if I got diagram of a pancreas.
Sir, it gives out pancreatic juices, right?
Yeah, that is correct. It gives out pancreatic juices. Actually, I'm looking for the diagram of pancreas. Anyways, I don't have got it over here. So, anyways, the pancreas is not a cream colored like gland. Its color is cream. Okay. So, pancreas, which is a large cream colored gland, secretes pancreatic juice. Pancreatic juice into the small intestine. Okay, guys. Now let's talk about the function of this pancreatic juices. The reason why we are discussing about pancreas and livers here is that because these two glands secretes juices in the small intestine. That's why we are discussing about it. All right, guys. So the pancreas, it is, if you see, it is located just below the stomach. It is located just below the stomach. Yeah, actually, we have got the diagram of it. Yeah, this one here. See this one, guys? It's a cream colored like structure now. That is actually pancreas, and it is located just below the stomach. All right. Okay. Okay. Hope that's clear now. So what this pancreatic juice being secreted by the pancreas will do, it will you see there are still if you see the compounds like fatty acids, glycerols, carbohydrates. Okay, so it will convert down the fats into simpler compounds. Okay, so it also acts upon the fat. So the pancreatic juice, it acts upon the fat and converts it into fatty acids, glycerol. So see here, the bile juice is also breaking down the fat. All right, guys, and this pancreatic juice is also breaking down the fat into fatty acids and glycerol. Don't get confused over here. The bile juice is also acting upon the fat. This pancreatic juice is also acting upon the fat and converting it into fatty acids and glycerol. And what else it does? It converts carbohydrate into simple sugars and proteins into simple compounds. That is called as amino acids. And it converts carbohydrates. Just Sundus, what did I say about carbohydrate? Into simple
Well,
sugars.
color blockade.
Yeah. And nitrogen into what? Proteins, sorry. Proteins into what? Proteins
Amino
into
acids.
amino acids. Hope you guys can see this, not enough space left here. Okay. So let's quickly summarize about it because we have got several points in here. So first point, Sundus, we talked about is, what was that? It is a highly coiled like tube now, having a length of 7.5 meter. Yeah. And then why we talked that why it is called as small, because it's it having a lesser weight. Yes, guys. And it receives secretions from which two glands? Livers and, sorry,
Small
there should be, no, not a small intestine. That's a mess type here. Receives secretion from liver and pancreas, isn't
Pancreas.
it? Yeah,
intestine.
right. And then the food is completely digested in small intestine, right? So what are the components of the food which are digested? It is fat, it is protein, and it is carbohydrate. So the fat is broken down into simpler substances. You see over here, the liver, which is secreting the bile juice, it's, what does it do? It converts the fat molecules into tiny droplets. Okay, so the bigger fat molecules are converted into smaller fat molecules that we have called here as tiny droplets, right, guys? Just, it is, you can imagine this droplet as drops of water, right? So whenever you will consume a milk which is high in fat, on the top layer, fat will float above the milk. Yes, guys? Okay. So a food which is high in oil content, so the fat flows above it. So you see the tiny droplets, it is visible in drop-like structures, tiny droplets. So that is being referred here. Now, what does the pancreas do, guys? It converts fat into
Fatty acids.
fatty acids with the help of its pancreatic juice. And what about fatty acids as well as glycerol?
Glycerol, yeah.
Yeah. And then carbohydrate into simple
Simple
sugars
sugar.
and proteins into amino
Amino acids.
acids. Okay, good. That is clear here now. Now, so how you guys are making notes of the class, by the way? Have you guys been making notes
Recording.
or not? By recording it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Rough
And
note.
then later you note it down. Okay. And Vika?
I write in rough notes, sir.
Okay. 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 Try to make fair notes. Like during the class, you can make rough notes, but after the class, you can fair it down. Right.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now let's talk about the liver, which is a gland. So liver, it is a reddish brown in color gland, which you can see over here. Okay. And if you see the comparison here, okay, the comparison might not be correct here, but if you see, it appears to be larger in size than the stomach itself, right?
Yes.
Okay. So that is your liver over here. Okay. It is the largest gland of the human body. Another fact about it is that it is the largest gland. It secretes bile juice, and bile juice, which is being secreted by the liver, whose function is to break down the fat. Temporarily, it is stored in gallbladder over here. You see this this liver over here, which is secreting the bile juice. The bile juice is stored where? See over this yellowish and this greenish structure over here. See this one,
Gallbladder.
gallbladder. So for temporary time, the bile juice is stored in the gallbladder. Remember about this thing, guys, right? So the bile juice is stored in the gallbladder. Okay, and from gallbladder, the bile juice is secreted then into the small intestine, right? No confusions.
Confident.
And if question is asked that which juice makes our body able to break down the fat, then it is the bile juice. Yeah. Okay, then let's move ahead. The pancreas, we talked about it earlier. It's a cream-like gland, cream-colored gland situated just below the stomach, below the stomach, right? Functions include what? It secretes pancreatic juice, and its function we already talked about. So let's move ahead then, right? Now, let's talk about the large intestine. See in the figure here, okay, there's a large intestine which you guys can see over here, right? So in comparison to small intestine, its size is almost 1/5. Okay, its length is almost 1/5. So it is about 1.5 meter long tube, right? And it is wider and shorter than the small intestine, guys. Right. So
What
look,
did you say just again? I couldn't
yeah,
hear.
I say that, dear, I just say that it is 1.5 meter in length. Okay, as compared to small intestine. See, the length of the small intestine was 7.5 meter, and the length of the large intestine is almost 1/5 of it. Isn't it, Vigans, on this? Yeah. So it is wider than the small intestine, but shorter than the small intestine, right? So as we talked about the small intestine, that the food is digested here. Okay, like all the nutrients are absorbed from the food. Okay, so all the one more thing, talking about the absorption of the small intestine. Okay, let me quickly cover that part as well. Okay, that's why I took this figure over here. Yes, guys, see the wall of the small intestine over here. If you take out any section of this small intestine, let's take out this section. Okay, so we have taken this portion of the small intestine over here, guys. Okay, I'm talking back again about this small intestine just to cover about one important part, guys. All right. So in the inner lines of the small intestine, you will see there are finger-like structures over it. Yes, like this. There are millions of finger-like structures inside the wall of the small intestine. Okay. Now, these finger-like structures are called as villi. VILLI. These are called as VILLI, villi. So villi, you will see they are rich in blood vessels. Blood vessels, blood vessels, you guys know, they are nerves,
Yes, sir.
arteries and veins that collects that transport the blood in our body. So these are very rich in blood vessels, and blood vessels are there are richness of blood vessels in it, right? So what happens? Talking about the absorption part, like the food is digested in the small intestine. Now, the components of the food that will basically that is being absorbed by this villi or by this blood vessels. So the blood vessels absorbs the components of the food now present, which is present inside the wall of the small intestine. Right, guys? Any confusions in this one?
No, sir.
So the food particle, let's say this is a food particle here, which has been digested. Okay, now it consists of several parts now, several different types of components it will be consisting of. Okay, like it consists of carbohydrates, it consists of sugars, it consists of different types of minerals which are required by each and every cell of the human body for growth and for repair. So that very tiny components will be absorbed by the blood vessels present in the villi. So that is how absorption of the food particle takes place. Now back to what we were talking about, that is the large intestine. So large intestine, its length is only 1.5 meter.
0.5 meter
Yeah, and it is wider
than the
and
small intestine.
yeah,
Like
shorter than
the small intestine.
small intestine. Good, right? Now the undigested semi-solid food that is passed from the small intestine to the large intestine. What happens to that food in this part? So the food which was digested in the small intestine, yeah, in this small intestine, it still consists of some amount of water in it. Like all the necessary components that our body requires has been absorbed in the small intestine itself, but there's still some amount of water left in that food. Okay, guys. So what happens in this large intestine? Basically, whatever water, or let's say if there's some amount of salt left in the food, it will be absorbed in the large intestine, right? So this large intestine also has got similar finger-like structures in it. And here their function will be only concerned with absorption of water and salts. Any confusion so far?
No, sir.
Good. So you will see inner lines of the small intestine. They will also have finger-like structures that are called as villi. And their function in large intestine is only concerned with absorption of salts and water. Of water and salts. Right, guys? Now, once the water and salt present inside the semi-solid waste has been absorbed, now the remaining waste will pass through the rectum and then it will remain there for some time. Okay, and then it will be released via the anus as solid waste. Right, guys? And that is the last process of nutrition that is being called as egestion. Okay. So the large intestine absorbs water and salts from the semi-solid food that is passed from the small intestine. After it is passed into the rectum, okay, the waste food will remain there for some time. Therefore, some time, and then is excreted out as solid waste. Right, guys? And this process is called as, this process of removal of solid waste from the body is called as
Egestion.
egestion. Egestion or excretion. Egestion or excretion. No. So that is basically the different parts of the alimentary canal, starting from the mouth up to the large intestine and the rectum as well. Okay. We have to include the anus as well in this one. That is also part of the alimentary canal, but its only function is to do what? To release the solid waste. Okay, and it will store. That's basically the exit point of the human body, from where the solid waste is removed. Okay, now talking about, you see, not all the food which we are eating gets digested in a proper manner, right? So many times persons experience diarrhea, indigestion, etc. Okay, so talking about diarrhea, so what happens in diarrhea? It is a condition in which person passes out watery stools very frequently, right? So it is basically a disease which is caused by an infection, or might be caused by food poisoning, or might be due to indigestion, guys. Okay, and it is usually found to be occurring in children's more often, and sometimes it may be very fatal, very injurious to health. So in this condition, what happens? Like watery stool is being passed from the body. Like the stool, if it's in a solid form, then it's better. But if the watery stool is passed, stool, that is the solid waste I'm talking about. Okay. So if watery stool is passed from the body, then the person will suffer from dehydration, loss of water from the body. Yes, guys. Yeah.
Yes,
So
sir.
there will be a loss of water, and along with loss of water, important salts may also be lost via the watery stools. So this loss of water from the body of a person through watery stool is called as dehydration, and it may be fatal under severe conditions. Okay, so diarrhea should never be neglected. So in order to prevent dehydration, what must we do? We must be uh, uh, we must take ORS. We must take sufficient amount of water. Okay. So ORS, you see, ORS consists of necessary minerals required for our body, necessary salts. So ORS is given when the person is suffering from diarrhea, and it is recommended that one should drink at least 4 to 5 liters of water on a daily basis so that he or she does not suffer from dehydration. All right, guys. So the solution ORS. Any idea about its full form?
Oral rehydration solution.
Oral dehydration solution. Very good.
Thank you,
Okay.
sir.
So diarrhea, the causes of it might be food poisoning, indigestion. Okay. And result will, what will be the result? The person will suffer from dehydration. So in dehydration, what happens? There is loss of water and important salts. And important salts from the body. So the person will experience weakness. Okay. So the cure is what? Taking ORS and enough drinking enough water. So ORS is oral rehydration solution, guys. So this oral rehydration solution consists of necessary minerals and salts required from the body. Okay. So this will make up for the loss of water and salt in the body. Okay, and in fact, it provides some amount of sugar also. So why sugar? Because sugar provides instant energy. Okay, and this will basically help in the recovery of the disease. Okay, all right. Now, what about digestion in the grass-eating animals, guys? How digestion takes place in them? How digestion takes place in the body of cows, in carnivorous animals, in herbivorous animals? So you will see the herbivorous animals such as cows, buffaloes. They basically consume different types of plants. The basic diet of their basic diet is basically grass. Okay, so these animals, you will see, they will quickly swallow the grass and store it in their stomach, and later on you will see that they will bring down the swallowed food again back to their mouth, and they will chew it again and then swallow it. Have you guys seen them? That whenever you will see the cow is resting in a quiet place, they will basically uh, re-chew the food. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Sundus, have you seen?
No.
Even the goats do this. Goats are also herbivorous animals. You will see at once they will eat lots of leaves, okay, without chewing them properly. And later on, when they are resting, they will bring down that food back to their mouth and re-chew it. So what happens in grass-eating animals, for example, cows, they will quickly swallow the grass and they will store it in their stomach. So you will see now their stomach is basically divided into 4 parts, into 4 chambers. For example, in cow, their stomach is divided into 4 chambers. Okay. So in the first chamber, the food which you are eating, it will first go into the first chamber of the stomach. Okay. So then what happens? The first chamber which I'm talking about, digestion in grass eating animals. So if you see what, let's try to divide the chamber of their stomach in 4 parts. Okay. So just via representation here, I'm trying to show it. Okay. So the first part of their stomach is called as rumen. This is the first chamber. Here we are talking about cow, guys. Okay. So the food which they are swallowing, it will first go into the first chamber of the stomach, that is called as rumen. So the food which comes into the rumen has not been chewed completely. Okay. So far everything's clear? Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let's say this is the food pipe of the cow. Okay, although that's not a good representation, but that will help us understand the concept, right? Okay, so the food which is coming here is not completely chewed. Food is not chewed completely. Okay, completely. Then what happens? This rumen which you are seeing here, it possesses cellulose digesting bacteria. Remember the component cellulose which is found in the cells of plant, which if we
Yes,
eat,
sir.
which our body cannot digest
Oh,
because there was an enzyme required to digest the cellulose which our body does not have. So in the case of this cow, in the first chamber of their stomach, that is rumen, they have got a cellulose digesting bacteria which will break down the food by the process called as fermentation. Look, I'm writing in detail over here. In the first chamber, that is rumen, the food coming to this chamber is not chewed properly, guys. Huh? Isn't it? The next thing is that this rumen, that is the first part, first chamber of the stomach, it consists of cellulose digesting bacteria. Cellulose digesting bacteria are found in it that digest the cellulose via fermentation. Via fermentation. Okay, guys. So this partially digested food or the grass present in the rumen of cow is now called as curd. So after the food has been fermented, the food will be converted into a partially digested form. So the partial digestion of food is being done by the cellulose digesting bacteria present in it. And the food that has been partially digested, we call it as curd, C-U-D. Okay, guys.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So the food is partially digested and is called curd. Okay, remember the terms very carefully, like curd, like rumen. These are very important. Okay, now let's talk about the second chamber. That is called as what? That we will come to later. Let's first talk about what happens to the food now. So this curd here, which was in the rumen, okay. So this curd is brought back into the stomach by the into the mouth of the cow. Okay, from the rumen, the food comes back to the mouth of the cow. Okay, and the animal will start to chew it again. So this process is called as rumination. What do we call it? Is that rumination? Okay, and the animals which does this process is called as ruminants. Okay, so rumination. Let's talk about this one. The curd is brought back to the mouth of the cow and chewed again. Chewed again. This process is basically called as rumination. Okay, guys. This is called as rumination. And what do we call the animals that performs this process?
Ruminants.
Ruminants. Good. Can you name some example apart? Can you guys name some example apart from buffaloes and cows?
what?
Goat.
Good. Yeah. And any more examples?
Ox,
Yeah. Okay, good.
yak,
Yeah. Now, so you see, the animals are called as ruminants now. Now, the when this curd is thoroughly chewed again in the mouth of the cow, it is swallowed again. Obviously, the cow will again swallow that food now. Okay. Now this time the chewed curd does not go back to the rumen, but enter into the other compartments of cow's stomach and then into the small intestine for complete digestion absorption of food. Right, guys? Okay. And if you see our body, why our body is not able to digest the cellulose? Okay. It is because we do not
Need
have
some
the cellulose digesting bacteria and we do not have the enzyme required to digest the cellulose. All right, guys, as compared to this cow over here. Okay. Now I'm writing over here that when this curd is thoroughly chewed uh, in the mouth of the cow, it is re-swallowed. It is re-swallowed, and this time the chewed food will not go back to the rumen. Chewed food will not go back to rumen. So instead, it will pass through the other parts of the chambers, and then it will go to the small intestine, where it will be digested further and then absorbed. Okay, so the stomach is not the site of complete digestion, right, guys? Okay, and the cellulose digesting bacteria is present only in the first part, that is the rumen only. Okay, did you got this?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, what about carnivorous? Why they cannot digest the cellulose present in the food? Yeah.
because we don't have the enzyme.
Okay. Can you name the enzyme required to digest the cellulose? If you guys remember, I told you about the name of the enzyme in the previous class. Yes. Any idea? That is called as cellulase. That is called as cellulase. See over here. If you guys see the
Yeah, you said.
previous class, yeah, that was called as cellulase. In which part I told you about this one? Yes, see over here, cellulase. Okay, human beings do not have cellulase. So someone might ask this question to you as well. So then it's better to know the name of the enzyme required to digest the cellulose as well. That is cellulase. Hope you guys will remember that. Okay. Now, talking about digestion in other animals. For example, take example of a unicellular microorganism, amoeba. So how digestion takes place in an amoeba, guys? Amoeba is basically a microscopic single cell organism, and it can be found in pond water nearby your house. Okay, and it is a very simple animal and cannot be seen by our naked eyes. Okay, so this amoeba over here, it does not have a fixed structure. It might look like this as well. Okay, so this amoeba, it has also a nucleus. It has also got a cell membrane, that is its boundary. Okay, so I'm talking about amoeba. So organisms can be single cell and multicellular as well. So this is a single celled animal. What type of animal? Microscopic, right? So it has a cell membrane, nucleus as well, and there are bubbles like vacuoles in it as well. So there are some empty spaces in it as well that we call as vacuoles. VACUOLs. What are they? Empty spaces. So those empty spaces are also used for the purpose of storing the food. Okay. So the vacuole which you are seeing over here, they are also of two types. One is the food vacuole and one is the contractile vacuole. You only have to study about food vacuole only here. Okay. So let's talk about the food vacuole only here. All right. So let's understand how it derives its nutrition, guys. Okay. So suppose there's an amoeba over here. Okay, and there's a prey over here. This is its prey, that is its food. So what will this amoeba do? This amoeba will start to form leg-like projections around the prey, and these are called as its legs. But they are false legs. They are false legs. Hence, we call them as pseudo legs or pseudopodia. Pseudopodia, guys. So amoeba, what will it do? Whenever a prey is nearby it will start developing false feet-like structures, and it will start to cover the prey. And then later on, the prey will be brought inside the body of the amoeba. The prey is over here now. This is how amoeba obtains its food, guys. Okay, right? So the food particle here has been engulfed by the amoeba. Okay, now how it engulfed? Basically, the two amoeba which you are, the two pseudopodia here which you are seeing, this one and this one, they later joined, and the prey is now inside the body of the amoeba, and it has been trapped. Okay, now the digestive juices present inside. You see, we talked about vacuole as well. Okay, so now in the vacuole there are some digestive juices. Now the digestive juices present inside the vacuole will act upon that prey, it, and it will start to digest the body of the prey. In this way, the food is obtained by the amoeba. All right, guys, and it will utilize the energy obtained for growth and maintenance and multiplication as well. All right, and in fact, it also has to release the undigested food. So it will release the undigested food via the cell membrane. Via the cell membrane, it releases the waste material from its body. Like these are the waste materials over here, which will basically simply pass from the cell membrane. All right.